There, I'm done.
That's so cool.
All right, welcome everybody. Looks like we have a little bit of a smaller group tonight, but I mean, it's 85 in August, so what can you expect? So typically it's myself and Carl Weeks, but Carl actually took a week off. I don't think he's missed one like ever. So I asked Pat to step in. So he's gonna help me this tonight. Typically we cover, you know, tenants, toilets, what's going on in your property, what, you know, what would you do to handle an eviction, stuff like that throughout the moratorium. But I wanted to do something a little bit different this week. So we're going to talk about mindset shift, what it takes to go from A to Z, all the steps to get there, really more about personal growth. So tonight I asked Brittney and Randy Spurling to join us. So they have a very unique story, and I think we could all learn a lot from it. Before we get started, Susan, do you have any housekeeping things? Joe? We good?
No, actually, I don't.
Yeah, is this thing on? I don't know. Yeah, I thank you, Beth. No, I can't think of anything. The next, you know, Joe's here, so the next meeting is next Thursday in the morning, the alternative. And it's really about it. We're working on the holiday party, and we are working on having a venue for in-person and online meetings, combining them. So far, we've not been terribly successful with that, but working on it. So, but that's all really.
Joe, what about the FFREIA picnic? Overall success? I mean, how about numbers wise? Where were we at?
I believe the last number that I heard was Leon's number was 83, I believe. Is that right, Susan?
Yeah, according to Beth's list, I believe it was 77. Thank you, Beth, for taking attendance.
It was 77, but then we ran out of name tags, so there were probably 10, 15 more after that. So somewhere in there.
Yeah, but you didn't put them on the list though? You didn't handwrite them just on the list?
Honestly, I missed some.
Oh, okay. You made me be wrong, Beth. Yeah, no, thank you very much for doing that, you know, taking the list and the name tags. Yeah, we do have to buy more name tags. We went through them all. So yeah.
All right, well, before we get started, I think we might have a couple new people here. You just want to introduce yourselves real quick. Jason, have you been here before?
Yeah.
Oh, you got your mute on, Jason.
Yep, we're good to go.
We're good to go. Okay, you've been here for, all right. And then Christina?
Yep. I've been here for, I don't know, less than a year, but.
Oh, it's me. It's me, the one that hasn't been here. So, all right. Well, we'll get right down to it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining, except Joe. But thank you for being with us here tonight. And you know, like Beth said, you know, Randy and Brittney are unique, awesome people. And just a real quick story, going back about 20 years ago, when I was in the business and the rentals and so forth. And Randy, correct me on this, but I was thinking about this last night, tossing and turning, and I believe we were doing business with your brother, Paul, first.
That's correct.
And Paul, I needed, at the time, I was putting in carpets, a lot of these rentals. Didn't know any better. I wanted to make the rentals like my own home. So I put carpets in the first and second floor. And of course, you would need them cleaned before tenants would come in. So I found Paul Spurling, and Paul did a great job. And from what I remember is some of these move-ins and move-outs weren't necessarily between Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They were after hours and they were weekends. And when I talked to Paul, he says, well, why don't you try my brother? Because my brother would probably be more into that than I would. So I was like, okay. So I met up with Randy, and Randy would come out, and again, after hours or weekends and even during the week. But I think Randy had blossomed from there because, I mean, you were a carpet cleaner in a sense, right? As far as what I knew, you were just starting this business, starting your own thing. I was new with rentals. I wasn't managing yet, but I had my own rentals and just starting out, learning the hard knocks. And
I think you only had eight units at the time.
Okay.
When we first met, you had 8 units.
Okay. All right. So, and I was working another job at the same time. And was that your only job at that time?
Yeah, I actually jumped in, burned the boats and jumped into the cleaning company, just because I knew that if I had the time available, I could then satisfy the money quickly, right? I could just go to work. And being willing to work nights and weekends really allowed us to schedule a lot of work that other cleaning companies weren't taking. And I didn't charge extra. We just didn't charge extra for nights and weekends. I mean, I was 24 years old. And with 2 kids and a mortgage, I was extremely happy somebody was calling.
Right. Imagine us as landlords, housing providers, or property managers, having someone like Randy after hours and weekends is a godsend, right? I mean,
Yeah.
spare of the moment is what our business is. So that was a
And
great
listen,
connection.
And listen, 20 years in, I'm working this Saturday for an office building to do the carpets, and I'm doing the job, even though I have 5 service trucks on the road, just because all the guys have already put in 45, 50 hours. So I'll go do that job on Saturday. I don't care. The customer needs it. I can take care of it. It's easy.
Mhm.
Excellent. So the fact that 20 years went by, you still do weekends.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. And you still answer the phone.
Yeah, as long as I can answer the phone from the pool with a beer in my hand in Florida.
What you do well.
I did.
All right. So I remember it blossoming from there because, we talk about mindset and personal growth, and I think Brittney's going to jump in on this too as we move forward. But the whole mindset, we all come from a background, right? We're all conditioned and come from a certain background, and even your mind tells you what you can do, what you can't do, limitations, right? So for me, for instance, both of my parents were high school dropouts, got married young, had kids, and you go to work, and that's life, right? You work 9 to 5 and come home and do dinner at 5:30, watch TV for 2 hours, and go to bed. So when I got into real estate, it was a freak nature, it was infomercial, and it took off from there. And my first loan I got was an 18% interest, and everybody told me I was dumb, stupid, and all sorts of names for taking out a loan at 18%. And then 20 years later, it really blossomed. And I remember, you're kind of an outsider doing this, and all the negatives, and people throw daggers at you. And what are you doing? And nobody's going to pay rent, and they trash your places. And so you deal with that, and that's where your mindset's got to stay strong. You lose some friends along the way. Life changes completely. Okay. So I remember going through this journey and working my job, and then after hours doing the hustle and bustle with the rentals, and then, meeting up with Randy from time to time. And as we grew, Randy grew. And once you make a good contact, you keep that good contact. And then all of a sudden, Randy got into some rentals, and we were managing for him. So Randy, I'll kind of stop here. And what made you, from being a vendor for us, having your own business, and the thing about New York State is anybody can open up a business, right? It's fairly easy to open up a business, whether you're an LLC or what have you, and get going. But how did you break through those barriers as well and expand? And all of a sudden you got into investing in real estate.
Primarily it was opportunity. So if the phone would ring and I would answer, I could see the opportunity in the dollars, right? But somehow, some way, I was very conditioned to not spend all of the money that we made. And even at 24 and 25 years old, I was very afraid of going broke. So you mentioned my brother used to clean your carpets for you too. We grew up in foster care, and we grew up with extended family, and we grew up getting picked on in school for, poor clothes. But I didn't flip that out and all of a sudden start spending everything I made and then some. Instead, I just figured out how to make a lot, live tight, and then I got a sort of sense of security from investing for future revenue. That gave me more security than purchasing expensive things. So when I met you, and I was ecstatic that you had units and you could give me service calls, but I was more happy to learn more about the real estate because I was already reading the books. I was reading like the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, the Millionaire Next Door books, and but I had a live person in Pat, right? So I had a live person in Pat to ask questions and get answers and see this is how, you know, this is what the rehab looks like. This is what it really costs to buy. And my very first goal was to buy one rental, but I ended up buying two through Pat. And it was scary. The very first three properties were on Massey Street. And I remember writing a check for $36,000. And at the time I had $36,400 to my name. You know what I mean? You know, and I was like, holy crap, but I'm going to go in. I'm going to just go in and do this. And by the time we did the rehabs, paid the extra money, and then refinanced those properties, I got all of the money except for $1,000 back. And that was it. Light bulb. I'm like, oh my God, I now own 2 homes, 3 units for $1,000. My mindset was $1,000. I recycled the money again the following year with you. I think we bought 3 units. And I tried to do some of the rehab work myself, but quite honestly, the more I read on the real estate books and built systems for my real estate, like using property management, like using contractors, we could turn over more units quicker. Then I use those systems to build my cleaning company, because there's no books on how to build a cleaning company, but they're very similar businesses, real estate and cleaning restoration. And it just took off. I think the second year I bought 7 units. I remember one time specifically cleaning a carpet, and a lady, you call, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I hang up the phone. The lady's like, what are you doing? I said, well, my guy Pat just called me. There's a house he's got to sell, and I'm going to buy it. She's like, you didn't look at it? I'm like, no, I didn't look at it. But I had trust in you, right? I had trust in the process and the system that we set up. Breaking through was realistically seeing you guys run those properties. And I've done a lot of referrals for you guys, or a lot of like when people call for recommendations. And I tell people very honestly, you guys do a great job with a terrible product. The properties I was buying for $15,000 are terrible products, but you guys did a great job. I made money, you know, and I didn't go do it, which was fantastic, which allowed me more leverage. And that we'll get into later, but we leverage everything we can to have as much personal time as possible.
And then when you were doing this journey, and it was the real estate that was taken off, your cleaning company was taken off, did you pursue education in real estate, seminars? I mean, what made you keep going forward? Or how come you just didn't plateau and say, hey, I'm good. I got a couple guys, I have my contracts, we're good. Because it isn't scary going up to the next step. I mean,
you ready? I got a really easy answer for that. I went
Yeah.
through a really expensive, exhausting divorce. And our mindsets were completely different. Physically, during our divorce, a phrase was used. He was investing in these properties, and I was jealous that we weren't getting more out of our personal life. And that to me is 2 different trains heading the opposite way. I was not interested in building a $700,000 lake house. I was interested in building a $7 million portfolio. So it took time to get through that. And then once I got through that, I didn't take any seminars, but man, I read. I try to read a book a month. And right now I'm running a little behind on that schedule, but I read a book, I take notes, I like dwell into that conversation. A few minutes ago, Pat, you had said, as you grow, you lose friends. I look at it completely different. As you grow, you gain friends. You gain friends that are doing much better than you, who are happy to help you. And they usually say you are with the 5 people who are around you. I think there's 3 levels to that. I think there are 5 people ahead of you you can learn from, 5 people around you you mingle with, and 5 people just below you who you should be helping up.
Right. Good point. Good point.
I think, Pat, if I can interrupt you, I think one of the breakthrough moments that we had was when we met. Randy just finished his divorce. He was 36. I was 24. You guys don't have to do the math.
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah, that's right. Do it again. Do it again. 36 and 24. I was very happy.
Okay. So, you know, when we met, we found that we had very similar goals, very similar visions that we wanted to pursue. And we were sitting on the pier one day and we were just talking about, you know, where do we see ourselves in the next 10 years, 15 years, you know, so on and so forth. And our common goal that we wanted to have was to someday when the kids graduated, which was 12 years from then, because our youngest were in kindergarten, we wanted to have a place in Florida. That was our goal.
12
and our 12-year goal. This was back in 2013. And let me tell you, we were broke, totally broke. Randy, we have it written down because it's such a significant number. We had $972 in our bank account. That is it.
And on top of that, I had 3 service trucks in my warehouse and 1 employee because I was so mentally drained from the last couple of years prior to that, that I wasn't trying hard at anything. So like 3 service trucks, 3 payments, all the equipment, and 1 employee. And it just, I had to get going again. I had to figure it out. And fortunately, we're like with Brittney's support and like just a partnership support, you know, like not really your traditional roles of, oh, let me make dinner, but more along the lines of let's talk deeply. It could be 5 in the morning, we'll sip coffee and talk deep about what our goals are. What do we want out of life, out of time, out of business? How do we do it? How do we back it up? Where do you start? And
just having a sense of direction, because if you have a purpose, you really need to kind of put an action plan in step. Otherwise, that this is just, you know, sort of a pipe dream. Okay, Florida, 12 years.
Right.
Well, 12 years can come and go, but unless you take action steps, you're never going to get there. You kind of need like a focus. So we literally wrote it down on a napkin. We were sitting at the lake, a Canandaigua Pier, and we had our $972 written out. And we literally had, you know, step-by-step plan of how we were going to do this, what we needed in real estate income, what we needed out of the cleaning company, what I needed in my real estate career, and just, you know, decided and kind of committed to each other that we were going to hustle as hard as we could for the next 12 years to get that property in Florida. And the great thing is that we made a couple of big steps along the way that cut that time in half.
Right.
So 2 years ago, we bought our property in Florida 7 years ahead of schedule, which was amazing. And that was just dedication to, you know, what we wanted to pursue and what our goals were, and just, you know, kind of trusting in each other and having the same mindset together to go forward with what we wanted.
I really do believe in a lot. It's if there's sometimes there's things I say that if I had heard someone say this to me 20 years ago, I would have been like, that guy's a weirdo. That guy's a dork. But the reality is we believe in like the vision boards and writing things down and setting those goals out. Because if I like, there's legal pads I carry of notes that are 2 years old because they're still relevant because I haven't hit those goals yet, but I carry them in my backpack all the time until I hit those goals. It's insane, really. Some of the bigger moves that we made accelerated some of that. Once we got, there was a time that we were hanging out, like just on vacation in Florida, and I had read the book, Think Big, Grow Rich. And then I had read another book in that same month. We had taken a month off down there. And there was another similar thought of think big and retire early or something like that. And at that time, I had about $100,000 set aside to buy and rehab more houses with Pat. Or at the end of that book, I was like, wait a minute, maybe that $100,000 should be a down payment on something bigger that's turnkey, ready to rock and roll. Why, you know, why stay on the small side? It's kind of a slower process. It worked. It got me where I am. It got me the 100,000, but why don't I go bigger? And so we ended up putting in an offer on an RV park in Campground. And it was not easy. Today we smile, we laugh, we travel 12 weeks a year. It's great. But there was a time when I'm like, holy shit, we're going to go bankrupt. I'm going to lose money. We're going to be those people that took seasonal deposits from people and didn't have a campground to give them because it was that tight and that close. But it worked out.
Now, how did you, if you don't mind me asking, how did you find the RV deal? Were you just like, hey, let's find a campground, or how did that work?
Well, I'm a real estate agent, so kind of have the inside scoop. And we were kind of trying to figure out something that was bigger, like an apartment complex or a mobile home park or something with a lot of units. And the campground was actually listed on the multiple listing system, and it was listed as 40 units because it had 40 campsites. So we kind of looked at each other like, okay, what do you think about a campground? And then I was kind of like, no way, I don't camp. That's not my thing. I have no idea. But we kind of were trying to figure out the math, and we said, okay, maybe this could work. Come to find out, this campground is 8 minutes from our house.
Seriously.
8 minutes. And we never even knew it existed. So we said, okay, why not? We drove down there, took a day, drove down there, looked around, and boy, was this place a dump. It was terrible. There were homeless people living there. I mean, the owners were kind of, you know,
They were happy.
They were hippies. They didn't really want to run it like a business. They just kind of wanted to live free on the land and,
You grow the carrots, I'll grow the corn. No thanks.
yeah. So, I was kind of a little bit apprehensive, just kind of not my thing, but him with what he's dealt with in the city, kind of like, well, we'll figure it out. Just looked around and said, we'll take it. Had no idea what we were getting into. Nobody writes a book or has a podcast or anything about how to buy and run a campground. And yeah, we had to completely rehab this thing in 5 or 6 months. And every obstacle that you can imagine was thrown at us. DEC, Army Corps of Engineers, the town board supervisors, the code enforcer, the health department, everyone was against us. And that was a really rock bottom, I would say, time for us, because we were so excited about it. We were already taking people's deposits, and we were told 2 weeks prior to our May 1st opening that if we didn't get this checklist done, we weren't going to open.
And to me, that's a huge deal. Not in the sense that it's some sort of failure. Hey, you tried and didn't open. I don't take people's money. I pay all my bills early. I make twice as much as I spend. I take care of my stuff. And if I can't open, I wasn't going to be able to take care of my stuff. And that to me blew me away, because I never, ever even considered the fact that if I took $60,000 in seasonal payments up front and invested in the property, there'd be a problem. But if we didn't open, there's a problem. Those people need their money back, and we didn't have it. And the 3 weeks passed, the inspections came back through, and the inspector walked in with his clipboard and put it right under his arm and looked at me. He's like, I don't know how you did it. He's like, this place looks amazing. And I was like, I had no choice, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. I had to get this done. And since then, this is our 5th year in the campground. We are always sold out, and currently on a full waiting list for next year, already sold out. It's insane.
And you could have easily said, screw it, I'm gonna relist it.
Right, you could just give up, right? You could just be like, I can't do this. One thing I want to make a point about, though, even though that was rock bottom and stressful, we were never in an argument. We were never against each other. It was just the weight of this whole pressure, but it was never an issue for us. And I think that's a big, big thing for me, is that I try to take on a lot, but to have a support person like that helps me so much, because sometimes she'll tell me, slow down, don't take that. And I'll get mad. I'm like, oh, you're not supporting me. A month later, I'm like, it's a good thing I didn't do that thing that you said I shouldn't do. It was a little too much,
Do you feel that that's a struggle sometimes, Randy? Because I mean, you're a go-getter and you want to grab what you can. And is Brittney kind of good to say, hey, slow down a minute, take a look at this? Is it gonna?
There has been times I've told her to notarize a statement where I'll look at her, I'm like, you notarize this statement. I am not buying another business or piece of real estate for 6 months. I'm stressed. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm like, all right. I think the biggest learning curve on that one was when I purchased a heating and cooling company with 14 service trucks a few years ago. We took that on, and it was another concept of, hey, we bought a bigger piece of property, flipped it around, it worked out. If I'm thinking big, I should probably buy a bigger heating and cooling company or buy a bigger business than I am, right? Because at the time I had 4 service trucks, so I'm buying up by buying a 14 service truck company. And in theory, that's all fantastic. 90 days in, we had grown the company 4 more service trucks. So now we're at 18 service trucks in this HVAC company. We did all the things we said we were going to do, with the exception of I had no clue how much capital it was going to take. And on day 88 to 94, I thought we were going to go bankrupt, because we were owed $176,000 in work that we just completed, but we were 90 days out in payments. And I'm sitting there going, how did I not see this coming? Now, day 95, we started getting checks, so it made sense. It took a full year to catch up, and we scaled the company back down to 14, 15 trucks, because sometimes being real big isn't the best thing in the world. So there are times when I say to people, you can think big, but sometimes think big and do what you know. Just because I know a cleaning and restoration company doesn't mean I know how to run everybody else's company. And there's a little bit of ego you have to swallow there and say, listen, I'm not that, I can't do it all.
Well, to your point, Pat, Randy is very, very ambitious. And if he is quiet for more than an hour, I mean, his gears are always spinning. And it's great to want to grow, and to expand and to be ambitious. I mean, we're all entrepreneurs, like we're trying to strive for more and more and more. But I think what you have to understand is you can strive for more, but kind of channel in that focus to what you kind of already know. I mean, we have all of those friends that have eggs in so many baskets that, you'd rather have 3 extremely successful businesses or, areas of passive income, instead of having 4 half-assed businesses that are all borrowing from each other and falling apart. So, I think what Randy ended up learning in that experience with buying the heating and cooling company is that if he just put that energy and that focus and that money that he invested into his current real estate and into his current cleaning company, it would have been perfectly fine. But just sometimes you just get excited and you just want to try new things, and it's great. But I mean, when you have a lot on the line that's banking on whether this company is going to pass or fail, I mean, that can be very stressful.
I think it's the phrase I say recently, because I sold my partnership in the heating and cooling company, and on paper, it was a great move. Anybody reading those numbers would be like, hey, that was a good move. But they didn't see the sleepless nights. I mean, I probably put on 20 or 30 pounds of stress, literally 20 or 30 physical pounds from the stress. There'd be times I'd have to physically drink 2 or 3 beers to go to bed because I was like, just, hoping that the next day a check would show up, even though we're consistently taking contracts, putting out bids and winning them. I'm like, there's times we had to say no. We had bids that were $380,000. I'm like, we got it. We can't do it because we can't fund that job. So learning how to say no was a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, wait a minute, it's okay. It's okay to say no. Let me just slow things down a little bit. Slow things down, go back to what works, build the system, think it out, plan it out, move a little slower, crawl, walk, then run. Sounds stupid, sounds simple, but it really works every time. Slow things down. And it's not to say that there aren't more ideas out there. What I find myself now is not saying no too fast, because a lot of friends gravitate to us like, hey, what do you think about this idea? I could really use your help. I'm like, no, sounds like a good idea. Here's some hiccups you might see. I don't want any part of it. I hope you make $1 million. And it takes a lot to say no, because deep down you're thinking I could probably do that. But you gotta like slow it down sometimes.
Did you only learn that after the heating company?
During.
Okay, that's when it hit you.
That's when it hit me like a ton of bricks, man. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So now I think what we've seen is that in the last year that I've had my focus and attention back on my cleaning company, we are up 2 technicians and a service truck. We could be up double, but I don't want to be. I'm slowly adding the service techs, slowly adding the areas that we service so that it's done well within the system that we're building. By all means, I could go wildfire and put 3 crews out in Syracuse. I don't need to. That's the other part. How much do you need? Thankfully for us, real estate has given us that sort of confidence boost where between the units that you were managing, I think you managed 28 properties for us. We own 5 that we would manage ourselves. We own the RV parking campground. We own a commercial warehouse. And then I am a private partner on 7 more warehouse buildings. That's enough. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like enough. And it gives us, we still have time. So what we try to do is we say, what's our schedule look like for the year? Not our income. Start with our schedule. 4 weeks at Christmas down in Florida. Every other month in Florida for a week. And the other months we want to go somewhere else, whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's somewhere else. And now how do we make money on the time that we're here or while we're not here? And typically, we know that the real estate will pay all of our bills. So it becomes much easier for Brittney to do her real estate or her coaching business, or for me to do the cleaning and restoration company, because you have less risk. That's not to say you don't want a successful business, but you don't need to really, even though I still work 60, 70 hours a week, don't need to.
I guess I would say that what we've learned to focus on and channel our personal goals is obviously everyone has a goal to make money, live financially free, but is that really enough of a purpose? I don't know. So I would say that our biggest intention for having real estate and having our business and hustling like we do is because we're buying our time. We actually like each other. I know it sounds crazy, but we are, we would rather hang out with each other than anybody else. And we love to spend time together and take time off. And I think that's something that we just found that we both appreciate in one another. And we're basically buying our time. We just want to have enough in the bank, enough running to be financially free and be able to travel and just see experiences and do things together. And that's kind of what gets us up out of bed every morning, to just keep going and going, just so we can spend more quality time together.
So I mean, most of us here have real estate singles, doubles, and so forth, portfolios that range from just a few to maybe 10 or 15 or 20. At one point, you made that decision to go to the campground, which I'm eager to hear that. I'm sure others are eager to hear that, because yes, it's real estate, but it's different than the norm that we talk about tenants and toilets and C of Os and all that stuff. So you reached 28 rentals in Rochester we had at some point, and then you moved over to other opportunities. Like you say, you want to get bigger. So I'm assuming that maybe that included multifamilies if it came about and it was a good deal.
So it's funny, we have 5 units in Newark that make us, I honestly, I think they make us about $25,000 a year. And it would be very easy for us to replicate that and make $250,000 a year. But it's not. That is easy, and that is a good move for somebody, but it's easier to go bigger. So it's the same transaction, whether you're buying a $15,000 house, 150 or 1.5 million, it's literally one transaction. You just have to think it through and have your system in place. For us on the campground, once we realized one location, 40 units, what they could generate, and how much cash on cash return we're going to return. I know there's a million ways to read the numbers. My whole thing is, if I give out 100,000, what am I getting back? I know there's tax deductions and appreciation and all the other benefits, but really, what am I getting back on my money? And the goal is always at least like I don't know, let's say 25%, right? So if you're going to put $100,000 down, you want to make $25,000 a year. The reality is, with something like the campground or larger family properties, you can put 100 grand down and you can make 100 grand. Like, you can make back 100% of your money, and that buys your time. If you want to live a comfortable life, like I said, we live an extremely comfortable life, and the number's not as big as you think. 1 or 2 of our properties together, and we really wouldn't have to work, but that's not in us. Like, we're going to work. And also, I have a certain formula that goes on with, like, so if the campground can make us enough to pay our bills, we need enough money to consistently reinvest so we don't run out of money. And then you need lifetime money, right? It does cost money to hang out together and to take the kids skiing and to do all the things that we want to do. When I say financial freedom, I don't mean, I don't want to just sit with like on the back porch. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. Financial freedom to us is a lot of experiences too.
So the campground is a very different animal. You talk about toilets.
Oh yeah.
Your camper's toilets are none of my business. Your toilet breaks down, that's on you. We're renting grass to people.
Yep.
And we're mowing, and we mow the lawn. We have the kids mow the lawn, so they're a part of the business and they kind of know what it takes to run the campground. The great thing is it's seasonal. It runs from May 1st to November 1st, and then it shuts off till the next season. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's a different level of clientele. It's a different level of repairs, maintenance. It's different. It's not like we're, a tenant in a house where there's, a water heater and a furnace and a roof and things like that, but there's other issues that go along as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, we may never replace a roof, but we do invest $10,000 in stone every year. Just, it disappears, like stone sinks. I don't know where it goes, but it goes. But once you get past those maintenance items, it's relatively easy. The biggest factor is someone will call us and say, do you know anybody who fixes furnaces? I don't. You should probably call a camper store. That's it, right? I don't get the call. I don't get any calls. We took our phone number off the website, off the Facebook. We don't get any calls whatsoever. If we do get a call, it's somehow an accident, and we say, you can email us. You're on a wait list. We'd love to have you. But to Brittney's point about clientele, the accidental find of a campground in the learning curve versus a mobile home park. Mobile home parks are maybe limited income, so that's affordable housing. We have people pulling in with $60,000 to $100,000 campers, and that's their weekend cottage. They're paying their bill. Nobody comes in until they paid in full. You can't play until you pay. So we are always collected all the time. And that's a big factor compared to some of our other rental portfolio properties.
And you guys don't have to be there to babysit either.
No, we actually, we used to feel like we had to be down there almost every night, every weekend. We did take, like nightly campers that would come in for just one night or 2 nights or the weekend. And Randy would have to run down there all the time, or we would stay in our camper and pack our things and pack the kids and get there. And we kind of just put an end to that and decided to make it all seasonal. So everybody comes in, they park for 6 months, no in and out. We sold our camper last year because we just don't need to be there. The camp basically is running itself. When we go down there, it's almost like we're guests. People have their cornhole tournament set up and they're having a picnic and they're doing their own thing. We have a camper who we offered a free site to that kind of just oversees things and maintains things, keeps an eye out. And it's very much like a private
Weekend cottage community.
There's no frills, there's no pool, there's no golf, there's none of that KOA stuff. Even like on our website, it says we're not a KOA, and that's A-okay, because we just don't want all of those things that we just found out we didn't need.
Yeah.
Campers didn't want it. They just want to park their camper, they build their deck, they, build their little
smokers and
area,
stuff. Yeah.
And they're set and they're good. Randy does go down every Wednesday to, service the tanks. We're on a septic system. He has the boys mow the lawn, but just basically showing the kids about business. And this is, an opportunity for them if they ever want to think outside the box. Here's what real estate investing is, and here's hands-on work.
I think that's kind of awesome too for our kids' experience. I've had adults tell us that they wish they were our kids. Maybe not just for the vacations and all the fun stuff, but in reality for the lessons that our kids at 13 and 15, they understand and pretty much assume that they're going to own a business when they get older. It's not foreign to them. They understand so much. It's actually insane. I can give you a million stories. My oldest daughter, she is 23 years old. She just bought her first duplex while she's in school full time in her last year at college. Like, she gets it, right? She's living in the 1-bedroom, rents the 4-bedroom. She's making money while she's in school. So it's exciting for us to see that the kids have those experiences working alongside of us.
Now, going back to real estate real quick, or you could even say with Campground, how do you feel about, like, some people are very hesitant to, oh my God, I need to borrow $300,000 to buy that property, even though they see it's going to cash flow, but it's like a roadblock for them. How would you suggest that they look beyond that?
I don't think we've ever looked at the whole picture of the amount that we are financing. It's more so the down payment and what you're making back on that down payment and how quickly you're making that down payment, because that's your money. The rest of the money is the bank's. Right. So we really just care about that. Cash on cash. That cash on cash is how we kind of determine.
To help some people with the roadblocks, I think is, it can be difficult. I have friends who literally, like, I want to do what you do, and it's not the hang up. They have the $10 or $12 or $15,000 that it might take to get into a smaller startup property, but they won't write the check. But at the same time, I'm like, but you got a really nice boat, and you're okay, right? You're okay parking the boat for 6 months, paying the payment, because the payment's X, and that's what you see. I see the boat as $60,000. You see the boat payment as $250,000. I see the property as making me money. You see $400,000 mortgage. I don't. So I think it's hard for people to get that sometimes. It's not that overwhelming. I think one time when Pat was running the properties, it clicked to me. I'm like, wow, I'm paying $77,000 a year in mortgages. It wasn't scary. What I looked at is great. When those pay off, I'll be that much more profitable, right? Because the tenants are paying the bills. In theory, everything works. You just have to be able to hit the highs and lows.
Well, and also I think it's seeing the future of what this investment is going to give you in 10, 20, 30 years, what leverage you're going to have, what tax incentives you're going to have, things like that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I had an investor one day said it to Pat, and I overheard it, and I was like, what? Like, it just clicked to me. And he said, why would I use my own money if I can use the bank's money?
Yeah.
And that was something that, I mean, I'll never forget, because I never, like, my parents, they, you know, 401k, they work 9 to 5, you don't take any risk. So that's what I grew up in. So like, even when I bought my first rental, they're like, you're buying what, where? Like, it didn't make sense. And they're, why would you borrow money for that? You need to save to have that. So I think it's a total different philosophy, that when you get into real estate or get into something like that, you have to be okay to use somebody else's money. But when it was said that way, is why would I use my own if I can use someone else? It was just mind blowing to me.
I've used the figure 100,000 as an easy number for math a few times. And I've said to people who get to the second or level conversation with us, and I'm like, you know, if you have $100,000 saved up and you want to buy one single, one double outright, good for you. If that helps you out, good for you. But just schedule the math for a minute and spread the 100,000 out on $20,000 down payments. And at the end of the day, and especially at the end of 15 years, you could possibly have 10 units versus that one double. And you may even make the same amount of cash flow, but you're going to have more property, and more property later on is worth more, right? So I think, I don't know how to get people through that. And I don't know how we have it, but we just are okay with it, you know? But as far as borrowing money, banks for sure. I know a lot of other people will use private money and stuff like that, but I'm okay with banks. Something about personal people, I don't like to owe anybody.
And with the campground, say if any of us want to venture into some other real estate ventures, the campground, any issues with funding with traditional banks compared to real estate that we do?
No.
Randy kind of made his own lending program when it came to financing the campground.
Matter of fact, when that was all done, CMB had asked me, like, can we use this? Can we use this formula? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, why can't you? You know, you got to be creative. And when I say creative, I don't mean illegal and I don't mean sneaky. I mean, you have to be creative. So how traditional campgrounds work is you have to actually have like a business loan to purchase it. You're buying a business collateralized by real estate, but only by the real estate, not by the campers, because you don't own the campers. There might be a house and a barn and a tractor. Great. There might be some offset there. It's easier after one, right? Because we're proven. So now CMB will finance us for an additional campground if we, you know, if we're looking. But your first one out the gate, you're going to have a pretty decent down payment. You're going to have pretty good collateral. But that's what we had in the units that you were managing. It's good collateral. I had a good formula where there was a lot of personal property to put on that property, right? So tractors, cars, picnic tables. You start itemizing those things, and then if down payment on the physical property, maybe what you do is you write a check for all of the physical property, and then the very next second, and then within the very same conversation, that is your collateral for your down payment, so you're not writing two checks. CMB looked at me and they're like, we can do that. So we wrote a check for tractors, lawnmowers, all of this stuff up front, and then 2 minutes later, collateralize that as our down payment to buy the property, with the fact that we had, you know, the other rentals to kind of like secure the loan. It was a little scary. It was a little scary because, again, if it didn't rent, we had like a $60,000 a year payment, you know?
Okay, so that's what's different is the collateral, because like you said, you're buying grass, right? You're buying dirt. So the bank wants to see some collateral, right?
It's really just a really big yard, and yards aren't worth as much as you think. And they only give us, like, we can do a 10-year.
Yeah.
We can only do a 10-year loan because it's a business loan.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Then what
But now, in retrospect, that the property.
Oh, go ahead.
Now that in retrospect, yeah, after 5 years, when you see the property being successful, you're sort of like, I'm glad it's going to be done in 5 more years, you know, because it is a heavy payment. But once it's done, that really adds to our monthly cash flow.
And now that you've had that for, how long have you had that for now?
This is our 5th season, so 5 years.
Okay. So do you think you've hit all the hurdles, you've hit all the unknowns, you're ready to go? And if so, compared to your new your Newark properties, what's easier at this point? What do you feel? I mean, would you buy more campgrounds now because it's seasonal? I mean, how's that change your real estate thinking?
Man, you're asking us a long question for a long time.
No, we've gone back and forth. We actually have thought about,
We looked at 4.
we've looked at campgrounds. We really thought about them and whether we would decide to take something that was run down and put work into it again, or pay more to have something already up and running. You know, we're definitely kind of toying with that. We're trying to figure out where we're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and if that makes sense for, you know, what our bigger plan is. You know, we like the campground that we have now because it's close. Like I said, it's 8 minutes away. We can easily run down there if need be.
Well,
It's not easy to find a campground.
It's
Not easy to find. It's not easy to finance. I mean, you're basically cleaning up somebody's mess. You know, you do still have tenant issues. You know, if you want to, you know, have a specific type of campground, if you want, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? If you want higher end campers, you want to raise your rates, all of that stuff. I mean, we had to clean house the first year that we even owned our campground because it was just kind of anybody and anything coming to the campground, and we didn't really want that. And we did have some challenges there. So we're kind of wondering if we just have the patience and the gumption to kind of do that all over again. But then we look at how much our campground is currently making us now. And, you know, it's something that we definitely toy with and go back and forth, but they're not easy to find. I'll tell you that.
So we looked at 4 this year, but I think the biggest hang up for me is we know that it's going to take a minimum. It took us 4 years to get this property where it is. I could probably do the next one in 2 years. I don't know that I want to do that. To me, it's like buying the heating company. I don't want some, I just don't want to do it again. I don't want to do that much work again. But it is profitable. You know, it is very profitable. It's not always easy. We say it's easy. We smile, we shake hands. Pat knows for a fact that I continue to buy real estate investment properties, even after sometimes somebody would steal my furnace, water heater, windows, the front door, and poop in the bathtub and fill it up. You know, the house. And literally, these guys call me.
We got
They're
that from
like,
Joe.
I know, it was Joe's house.
It was Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still bought more property because you just move past that, right? The campground, I really think there's only been 2 or 3 instances where it never made us second guess it, but you have to have a strong stomach. I mean, we literally had someone physically threaten to murder us and our kids because they had a mental breakdown. So we had to handle that. You know what I mean? We handled it. We had someone call 911 because the 2 couples were drunk and this and that. You're out. And I remember Brittany saying the next morning, she's like, man, I'm glad that you can handle stuff like that. Because I just went over 6 in the morning. Are you sober? Good. Pack your stuff, get out. I mean, sometimes you have to do that, you know?
So the answer, Pat, is we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Tomorrow it might be, the next day, maybe not. It's up in the air.
I think I would do a partnership and I'd mentor somebody and let them do the groundwork.
Good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Randy, you sold your city properties and you
Yeah.
invested in Newark, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Not in that order, but yes.
Okay. What made you pick Newark?
Accident. One of my technicians was cleaning the carpets for a lady, and she had said, oh, I was hoping to see Randy. We're thinking about selling these apartments, and you know, we know he knows about real estate. And he called me, and I was walking into Bristol Mountain to go skiing. I wanted to get first chair. If you're a skier, first chair is like big deal. Like you want to be the first guy up the lift. I've never had it. He calls me. I'm like, damn it, I'm not getting first chair. Something must be wrong. And he says, I'm cleaning these carpets. She's thinking about selling. I was in my truck. I'm like, stay there. I'll be right there. So I made a deal with her. We saw her. I knew her. I knew those properties. We've been cleaning their apartments for them for a while. And it was just relatively easy. I said, I'll buy these. I'll pay asking, no inspection. Will you hold the money? And they said yes. So we had those for 5 years and refinanced them out. Brittany did a great job. We just kind of went through and the units were in great shape. They just needed to be raised in rents. But that was sort of the first transition to, instead of buying a house through Joe or Pat that was all out of pocket rehab. This was one of those first, let's put $20,000 down on a turnkey. And it was making us $14,000 the first year. I'm like, huh, that's a lot easier. It was a lot easier, right? Than hiring the painters and this guy and that guy. And so we saw value in buying better valued properties. I think it was shortly thereafter, like 2 years later, that we bought the campground.
Very cool.
And then the heating and air conditioning company was the big challenge.
all
Kicked
ego.
their butt.
It was all ego, but if I had to be
Okay.
100% honest, it was all ego. My ego had been stroked multiple times by the seller of the heating cooling company. Randy, you're like a son to me. Randy, you've taken your business, you grow it. You got to buy me. You got to run this company. You got to take it over. And I got in my head that I could do it, but I knew I couldn't do it. So I wanted to bring in a physical mechanical partner. And so I brought in one of my very good friends to be a partner in that company. And he and I, throughout the entire stress levels of up and down, just like Brittney and I, never had a problem with each other, ever. This is horrible. This is stressful. This is great. We did it all right. We did it as friends. We did it as his business partners. And we made an exit strategy for me because I knew that I was not going to be able to maintain and stay in that company for 14, 15 years. I didn't want to learn that trade. I wanted to make the payments and then get paid. And a reduced fair amount just to remove myself and get my time back. And like Brittney said, then look at all that energy. What would that do in the company that I have now? What does that look like? And that's very exciting to be able to just put a little bit of energy into my own current business, a relationship, my kids' relationship, because I have 50 hours of my time back, you know?
And tell me about, so you took a step back from there, you had time, and then you went all in on your original business.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I'm looking at you because I'm
Are
like,
you
tired
looking
of
at me?
talking. I'm just tired of talking.
No, so Randy's always kind of had an exit strategy with on the spot cleaners, thinking that in the next 10, 15 years, he's going to sell the company and, whatever. And, I kind of said, well, what if it's making very good money. Why would you necessarily sell it? Why wouldn't you just hire somebody to take the business, to manage more of the business, leverage, your time, pay him a couple of bucks more, and you're still in the business. And that's what he ended up doing, and ended up focusing on, instead of having 14 million different services, channeling in on the most profitable ones and just attacking them.
Super attack, done very well with it. And what I found was, all right, let me pay these few lead technicians a little bit more to get my time back. You'll hear us say that all the time. I don't care if you run into us in a bar, we're like, we're so happy to have our time. But the reality is, I do more of the thinking than the physical work in the business, because as I paid those technicians more, they took more ownership in the company. Now we're getting more quality, just time from our technicians. We're worried and we're concerned for their quality of life too. And we're up better quality technicians, better people. It just makes it so much easier. I can't ever see why I would sell it. Like, she was 100% point on. No reason to sell it. It runs great.
So the moral of the conversation is listen to your wife.
Or have somebody to talk to. Like, literally have somebody to talk to.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, my father a year ago signed me up for the Grease Post, this paper that comes every Wednesday. And I don't get the D&C, I don't even read it online. But so once in a while, I look at the Grease Post for whatever reason, and this is what was in the paper. I don't know if you can see that.
All right.
On the
There
spot
it is.
cleaner. Yeah. I'm like, oh, isn't that something? We're going to talk to Randy and Brittney. And I'm like, oh, what do these guys do between carpet cleaning, duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, floods, power washing? I mean, mold.
Mold's a big one.
Mold's a big one.
Mold's a big one.
Everybody gets scared. Mold, right? You jump right on that. And the
Yeah, he's
story.
ready.
we were
Anything dirty, like Randy needs like a slogan, like a hashtag. And what was it say? We're so legit, we'll clean your shit is one of them that I was going to do, because literally the dirtiest jobs, like, he's ready to go. He has the stomach for it. I don't know. Doesn't bother him, but he just.
If you guys go through our Facebook business page, you'll see I have so many videos of me scraping and shoveling crawl space poop. But but I also have like a side of me that can see the difference, right? So homeowner insurance, this is the bill, we're flexible. Landlords, you're not putting it through your insurance. I'm a landlord, you're a landlord, we're gonna help each other out. This can be super reasonable cost. You know, we do a lot of work for a lot of property managers, and we just try to keep it fair. We know every dollar matters between the property manager and the landlord of the property. Still has to be clean and sanitary, but there's wiggle room, you know.
Awesome. No, I loved it. When I saw this, I'm like, this is the best. You know, I mean, like I said, your first love probably comes simple, easy, and you get some more certifications. You got a bunch of certifications, right? Bunch of
I
licenses.
have 14 certifications and 2 state licenses.
And I'm sure you probably looked at it as, where's the greatest need? Where I can help, right? And you get these certifications and licenses, and not a lot of people want to get dirty like you do, or be called out at midnight for a flood. Right? So I'm sure you saw that. You have a right team underneath you. You guys nail it, and it goes well.
Yep.
Right?
There was a time during COVID where I'd gotten a call 7:30 at night, and it was a biohazard remediation call. Essentially, a pharmacist had gotten COVID, and they need the pharmacy disinfected 2 hours. So the funny thread between Brittney and I was, if she sees the phone ring 8, 9 o'clock at night and I jump in my boots before I even get off the couch, I'm heading to one of those pharmacies, because we had grabbed a contract for a 100-mile radius for all the Walgreens, Rite Aid, all these pharmacies. And it was worth it. It was definitely worth heading out for.
But I think the moral of the story, because I've heard you say it like 10 times in the last hour, is you answer the phone.
The phone is money. We've taught the kids that the phone rings, the phone is money. It's an opportunity.
And I think that's what a lot of people have a hard time with, where, you know, a lot of people talk about work-life balance and stuff like that. But when you have a partner who understands it's a 10-minute phone call, it's okay, and I'll be right back. I think it's very hard for people to understand, especially like Pat and I work very close together. His phone rings. Okay. It doesn't bother me, but some people get very upset about that. So, I mean, how do you guys make that work? Because, I mean, Brittney, you're taking calls. You're a realtor. During a birthday dinner, if your phone rings, are you answering it? Randy, you're on an anniversary dinner. You answer the phone. You know, like, how do you guys play into that?
I guess we just understand it, and we're really respectful of each other's business and how it contributes to our goals. You know, if you don't answer the phone, you're not making the deal, you're not taking the opportunity, you're not making the money, and then your goal kind of floats away. Like, we get it. We help each other out. We're very respectful of each other's businesses. You know, when I'm, you know, running through showings all day long, as soon as I get up, like, he'll make me breakfast because he knows that I'm going to be too busy and I'm probably not going to eat throughout the day. Or, you know, I'll take care of the kids or do whatever he needs, you know, when he's working. I'm not pissed off that he's working. I'd be more pissed off if he wasn't working, you know? So I guess it's not about my feelings. It's not about his feelings. It's about just us as a couple together and what our goals are and how we're going to get there. And we're only going to get there if we support each other.
I think it's kind of strange too, because it just feels natural, right? Like, it's like you said, oh, I answer the phone during like for those other people here who don't know that Pat and Beth are now our vacation neighbors. We bought a condo in the parking lot right next to us. And as much, I mean, we hung out a lot down there. We never see each other up here, but we hung out down there, and our phones rang. No, you didn't get mad. I didn't get mad, right? Like, your phone rang. I wasn't mad at you, but that's how it is for us. We get it. You got to handle stuff. I also, in the back of my head, recognize I'm answering the phone from a pool in Florida. There's worst case scenarios. You know what I mean? There's always something worse than that. Like, the job that I had to run before I started my own business, there was like 5 days off a year. That was it, you know? And I would trade up answering the phone on my anniversary dinner for way more than 5 days off a year.
Absolutely. And it's funny you said that about Florida, because I was doing a deal buying a property in Ohio when we were there. Had all sorts of issues and problems, but I had to do the emails, you know. And sometimes we're in Florida, I'm like, well, you got to get it done, you know.
Don't mind the Great Danes drinking some water. Sorry, it's a little loud.
But so at this point, Randy and Brittney, you guys think you're just going to pretty much stay where you are and just perfect better and grow a little bit more, but slowly what you have?
I think the next step that we want, and maybe I haven't told you this, but
What?
the next step that we definitely want to buy more property in Florida. Our kids are going to be graduating in 4 to 5 years, and we're going to find ourselves there more and more. We try to go down once a month if we can. We do the entire month of December, and we're going to try to do that more and more. So would love to get a single family house down there, rent out our condo, potentially buy more condos. More of like long-term rentals than weekly rentals. It just kind of fits with our lifestyle and what we want to do now. So definitely buying more rentals out of state is kind of our next gig, I think.
I also think that like, I've always told Brittney for years, I love listening to her talk to her clients on the phone. And now that she has a growing coaching business, I love listening to her coach sometimes, but more times than not, it's a private conversation. So I don't get to hear as much. But that falls into our plan because we want to be able to continue to be, kind of like involved in something for work, and coaching and stuff like that can help. I know that I actually get a lot of satisfaction out of helping somebody get to the first few levels into their real estate, pass them on. Or there are other guys out of state that are in cleaning restoration companies that I've met at training schools who I have consistently talked to help them through some of their marketing or help them maybe with some of their cleaning techniques. I maybe possibly could see an indoor exterior interior cleaning warehouse in Florida where like people would come down and get their training. I would train and certify them. It's not out of the question. It's just not right in front of my radar right now. But I could see that. Something where it just keeps us where we want to be and work comes to us versus us always going out.
And like I said, the whole thing is you want your time. Both of you want your time. Your time to enjoy the kids, the family, your time in Florida. What have you learned? What's a couple of things that you know are the biggest challenges you faced? And for us, the rest of us that are going to grow, whether it's more real estate singles or bigger stuff. And I think a lot of this, whether it's the HVAC business or the campground or real estate, what are a couple of the challenges? Is it personal growth and just you working on yourself and making sure you're solid when you're dealing with people? Because you're dealing with people all the time, right? You're always dealing with people, making deals, networking. Is it something more business related? What are a couple of things that you can let us know about that are true realities of this is what you have to overcome or expect this?
So I think for me, the hardest thing to work on is yourself. And that's why people don't do it. They just make excuses and they just don't want to put in the time and the effort. And I'm very much a person who does not believe that you should just live by the cards that you think that you were dealt. There's always a way to break through that. I've had to distance myself from the yeah, but people. That's what I call them. The people who, just come to you to kind of complain and just want to bitch and moan about things. And you try to give them, ways to overcome what their challenges are. And they just say, oh yeah, but I can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And literally our circle has gotten smaller because I don't want those people at my table anymore. I want you to eat, but not at my table. I don't have room for people who do not have positivity, aren't committed to growth. And, I want people who I can bounce ideas off of and, just have a good mindset around and be around like-minded people. And we've had to learn that a lot. There's some times where we want to go out to dinner. We're like, who should we go to hang out to dinner with? Nobody.
Crickets.
Nobody, because we don't want to be around people because nobody's really, I don't know, in the same mindset, unfortunately. And that's okay because we're fine with it.
I think what she's saying is like, there are friends of ours who we were friends with, years ago. And then now they're the ones who've seen you work hard, seen you grow. And they're like, oh, well, they don't really say it must be nice, but they feel it. And I'm like, but you get out of work every day at 4. Like, that must be nice. You know what I mean? I mean, like, her phone rings nonstop and text messages nonstop. From something like right before the deal's about to close is a busy time, right? It's, oh my God, this, oh my gosh, that, and then the homeowners of that, blah, blah, blah. So it must be nice that they get out of work at 4 and then no one's calling them.
And they get to shut it down because we don't shut it down ever. Colleen can probably attest to that. It never turns off.
Yeah. And on the flip side, something that I would tell anybody else who's going to go ahead and challenge themselves and grow their businesses. Biggest thing I'm saying, you said, I said it a lot, which was time and answering the phone, is also setting time. One of the things Brittney taught me to do was schedule, and it's not schedule work, it's schedule the other stuff, right? So I would literally schedule this block of time for my sons and I to go skiing. No matter what work it is, it can wait till the next day. So from 3 to 5, 3 to 7 on Wednesdays, we know we're skiing. Now, if it's a great week, we'll ski 2 or 3 days. If it's a really stressful week, we still get Wednesday. And in the kids' eyes, all they know is we always ski. In my eyes, I'm like, oh my gosh, it wasn't too busy 5 weeks in a row. We didn't go because I scheduled it, right? So as you start to challenge yourself, work maybe a side hustle, grow your real estate, schedule the stuff that's important first before adding to your schedule the additional work, the additional hustle, because you can work forever.
Well, I think if I can interrupt you, delegating is a big thing. That was a challenge for me because I'm not very good at delegating. And we should have played a drinking game. Every time I said time, everyone could have taken a shot and we would have like all been passed out by now. But, you know, I'm the type of person who loved cleaning the house, loved cooking dinner, doing the dishes, stuff like that. And I don't anymore. I delegated all that stuff. Instacart, housekeeper, landscaping. I'm not doing any of that. My husband's not doing any of that. And, you know, the kids were wondering, they thought because we had a house cleaner come once a week that we had a maid. And I'm like, no, we don't have a maid. We have a house cleaner. And I broke down the math to them and I said, you know, this cleaning lady that comes once a week, you know, for 3 hours saves me 156 hours of time. And all it costs me is I have to sell one more house to make up how much I'm paying her for the 3 hours she cleans a week. And I sure as hell better be selling more than one house in 156 hours.
Right.
So time over money, I guess.
And I remember when somebody would ask me, like, why do you use property manager? Well, and they would tell me like, well, you're giving away, let's say 10%, easy number. But I'm not really giving away 10%. If you think you're giving away 10%, I would challenge you to say, by the 11th house, make that the 10%. Now for that one purchase, you don't do any work against the 11. You just bought a lot of time from like one transaction. And it's just a little bit of a circle math to say, all you have to do is just do a little bit more to get a whole lot back. And I mean, that's just kind of how that falls along. But so I think some of the headaches I would say are just make sure that you set time for your family, your friends, yourself, because it's very easy to get hung up and spun out and be like, I'm going to grow, I'm going to go, I'm going to just challenge. But then a year or two passes by and you're like, oh my God, like literally a year or two went by and you could be like, wow, I was been really busy. I missed out on a lot of stuff. Once you schedule those things, I can work all the time because I know Wednesday I'm going to ski, Friday we're going to go to dinner, Sunday I'm going to breakfast. It becomes a whole lot easier to put in the time outside of that.
Now, I know we touched on this in the beginning. You guys were talking, well, actually before we started, about foreclosures. But Brittney, what are you seeing going on in the real estate market? Maybe Colleen, if you want to chime in here, see if you guys have the same opinion. What do you see, Brittney? Slowing down, staying the same?
It really depends on the area, the property. You know, it's strange. The last couple of deals that I had accepted kind of surpassed delayed negotiations. And I actually got them at asking price, if not a little bit under, with inspections. And I mean, I haven't had an inspection. I don't know about you, Colleen, but almost the entire beginning of the first quarter, even in the second, you couldn't get an inspection. Mm-hmm. But then I'll write offers on certain properties and come in 5th out of 10th. You know, it's still a little bit crazy, I would say, but I've noticed a little bit of a shift, especially on our listings. You know, the ratio of showings versus offers coming in are definitely skewed. We used to get, you know, 20 offers. Now maybe we're getting 5. And there's still great offers. There's just not as many of them as the number of showings. A lot of my buyers are getting fatigued. They're getting frustrated and they are kind of wanting to wait a little bit because, you know, they're kind of in that mindset. Okay, we walk into this house, it's 200 grand. It's beautiful. It's not going to be 200 grand. It's going to be 250. Am I willing to just throw in everything to get this house and whittle my offer into the least amount of terms possible? You know, cash in my 401k, waive inspection. You know what? I'm done. I'm just going to wait. What do you think, Colleen? Are you seeing
Yeah.
kind of the same thing?
Well, I do a lot of listing, and I listed an absolutely beautiful home in the South Wedge recently. And I mean, it was stunning. It was ripped out, top to bottom, gorgeous, and they staged it. Now we're talking South Wedge. We're talking a very popular area. I had 5 showings over 4 days and 2 offers. I was shocked. But then I go and list a house on Flower City Park. We have 47 showings in 4 days and 11 offers. And it went crazy over asking price. So, I mean, there's just no rhyme or reason. I mean, I thought for sure that one in the South Wedge was just going to be a rotating door. And it just, the one in the South Wedge was in the 190 price range. The one in Flower City Park was 122.5. So there is a difference, I think, once you get over that 150 price. But
I'm wondering about, I have a feeling in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have a ton of short sales. Especially in that price range, the 150, where you have these first time home buyers that are like, oh, this is going to be our 3 to 5 year house. And it's like, honey, I don't think I'm going to be able to sell it for you in 3 to 5 years for what you're overpaying for. You're going to have to make this your 30-year house. I don't know what to tell you. I kind of have that feeling. I'm working with one woman who bought a house last year, paid 40 grand over asking. And unfortunately, she's in a divorce situation and she needs to sell. And now I'm going to have to try to sell that house for her for what she paid at least. So that's, I think, where we're going to start getting into some challenges. And, Colleen, you've been in the business for a long time. And unfortunately, some of these newer agents are kind of like, I can sell a house, no problem. Anybody with a pulse can sell a house right now. But it's going to take a different type of agent to have really specific conversations with some of these sellers who think that they're going to bank in this market when the inventory kind of spikes up, and they're going to be a little bit sorry.
well, I think also another part of the puzzle here is that the sellers are getting greedy, and they're like, well, I know my neighbor just got 225, so I'm going to list my house at 225. And that's not how we're playing the game right now. I mean, if you want 225, then you better be listing at 199. Because if I'm working with a buyer who can afford 225, I'm not showing them houses at 225 right now. I'm showing them under 200. So he at least has a fighting chance when he walks in the door. And that's the way the philosophy has been for several months now. It's starting to turn a little bit. And like you said, we have seen some more houses go through delayed negotiations without getting offers. And then you have that chance to snap up something. But so does everybody else. They're all thinking the same thing. So even when you go through delayed negotiations, you can still be in a multiple offer situation and you have to come in strong, but you have a little more of a chance, when it gets through there. But there's a lot of mind games going on right now in the listing and selling part of it. And it's hard to know.
Dirty.
Yeah. When you sit down with a seller and you're telling them, how much do you want for your house? You want 180? Okay, we're going to list it for 150. I mean, it's just puzzling. But as far as the short sale situation, I do feel that Rochester has always been very conservative. We've had no appreciation, literally, for years and years and years. And I do think that we are finally catching up with the rest of the country. So even when I've had the conversation with buyers about paying more than you ordinarily would, as long as they're, not $60,000, above what anything would have ever sold for. I do think that we're going to balance out and probably stay stable for a little while. Obviously there's those people that went ape shit and just did whatever they wanted to do regardless. But I have had a lot of conversations with my people who are like, are we overpaying? And I think it might just stabilize. I don't know if it's going to go down too much. I think we're just going to stabilize and stay where we should have been for 20 years.
Well, I know some people are like, oh, 2008, but what they don't remember about 2008 is that the interest rate changed, your payment changed. Right now, people are overpaying, but they're fixed.
Yeah.
So they know what they're paying, as long as, and those people are probably working.
Yep.
And, so I don't think you're going to see that flood like you did in 2008, especially in the Florida market.
Right.
We were sort of hoping, and this is not hoping for anybody to fail, but we were eyes open in the beginning of COVID because I said, wow, if there's no travel and there's no vacations, now's the time to be looking for these over leveraged condos in Florida where people were relying on Airbnb money.
Yeah,
Is
for sure.
they never slow down. People from the in-state went out and visited the beach, and
Yeah.
the rates are through the roof. Like Pat
Yeah.
knows, I mean, the cost of these condos down there keep like every month go up. Every single month they go up in price.
I also think that a lot of us are not going out of the country for vacation. So that could be another part of it where, local travel is much more advised. And
Right, and that was very helpful for our campground.
oh yeah,
Campers, RVs, ATVs, all of that you couldn't find them last year because people just wanted to be able to get out of their house.
Mhm.
And we were lucky during COVID that we're not a state campground. A lot of the state campgrounds were shut down until I think 4th of July weekend, but we didn't have to follow that rules because we were so small, which is kind of nice. And we were completely booked solid from the moment we opened till probably next year. Yeah.
that's good.
But
Very
to
different situation.
agree with Colleen, I think it's stabilizing. I don't think you're going to see a significant drop, and maybe some rise in the foreclosures, but nothing like a big wave.
There's, the forbearance definitely helped a lot of them, but there's still people that went a little, they, like the tenants who don't pay, the forbearance was there, great. And now that the forbearance is over, they have to start paying their mortgage and they feel like, we got out of the habit, let's not bother, we are going to see some of those. And I think that the foreclosure market will probably pick up a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely, it's going to be different.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. Does anyone have any questions at all for Brittney and Randy? I know I have one question. What books are you guys reading?
I just got 3 new books.
Where are they?
I'll
Are
go
they
get
in
them.
the
Hold
corner?
on. I actually like them.
We have so many books.
Yeah, Colleen, I think that South Wedge you're talking about, again, who we got it from. So I don't know if there's
He's not
something to do.
listening.
Yeah, he's not listening, but odd for sure, right? Odd.
Joe?
See, not listening.
That South Wedge house.
I was.
Uh-huh. It always goes back to you, Joe. Why does it always go back to you? Always goes back to you.
I literally just look at like the last 30 seconds. What am I?
Oh, you're looking really homely today, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I still haven't heard from Lou yet.
Yeah.
All right, what am I in trouble for?
No, we were just talking to South Wedge house and why it's a complete failure, and you just came up, but I just,
Yeah.
that house funneled through somebody, it just happens to be you again.
Next time, Pat, I'll school you on it.
Common denominator, right?
Oh gosh, All right, Randy, what books do you have?
All right, so I was given a book by just a sweetheart couple, 73-year-old couple that we met in Aruba, who motivated me to think that we could work forever because they are consistently excited about their business at 74 years old. So they had, when we had gotten home, there was a book in the mailbox. It was Good to Great. And I actually enjoyed that book. And I posted some paragraphs out of it. And then I started getting recommendations. So the same author, Jim Collins, I just got his other 2 books, Great by Choice and Built to Last, which I'm excited about Built to Last because I think that falls into our mindset now of not selling the cleaning company, not selling the campground, but just putting things on a really smooth autopilot and continue to just oversee, slowly grow, stay with the system.
Great.
Awesome. Any questions at all about building businesses, challenges? If anybody has questions, we want to do a little bit different today. That's why we had them in, and great stuff. Because a lot of us in real estate do want to get bigger, right? And we're going to look at other deals, but it was interesting what you said about the HVAC. Ooh, put on the brakes, out of there, and get back to what you know.
Yep.
Great.
Time is time. All right. Well, Brittney and Randy, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you.
You had some good
Thank
stuff, and
you.
even I was going to say too about Beth just reminded me about this the other day about being busy, but am I being productive? Because I can be busy, and everybody can be busy, but are we being productive? And I had to stop a couple of times when I'm doing stuff throughout the day. I'm like, this is not the best use of my time. I was busy.
I love
It
that
was
phrase.
not the best use. It wasn't a productive busy to get the maximum potential that I can give. You forget about that sometimes.
It's a great phrase though. Best use of time.
Nope.
Yep.
A productive busy. So, all right.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the summer next month. Budget won't be 95, but we'll get there.
All right, guys. Have a
All
great night,
right. Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Night.
We'll see ya.
Thank you.